So it's a perfect day to film a video on how to order a rooftop tent from AliExpress.
Alibaba.
Alibaba. We mentioned this video in the past when we got the tent. We said that we'd be doing a video like this, and we really haven't had the chance to get around to it. We finally did today. So let's talk about how to order a tent from Alibaba. Okay, before we begin, just a quick hi to anyone who's new here. Hi, welcome to another video at Project Jeep Life. We're Aldo and Dash. We like Jeeps, we live off-grid, and we make videos of all that stuff. So you're all caught up now. Let's get started. So to break down this video, we've divided it into about 4 rough categories. We may dive into each one a little bit while we're talking about one of the topics, but the way we've divided this video is 1, the research, 2, conversation and quotes, 3, costs involved, and 4 would be the process, such as import, duties, shipping, etc. Okay, so let's begin. You've decided you want to get a rooftop tent. The first thing you want to do is to pick your tent. Now, this first step is important regardless of where you're buying your rooftop tent, whether you're buying it from Alibaba or your local supplier. You want to know what tent you want to get. You want to choose your tent. There may be several factors that affect your decision or the type of tent you want to get. Price may be a factor too, like for example, a soft shell tent may be cheaper than a hard shell tent. In our case, we wanted a hard shell tent because we wanted an easy takedown, like a quick takedown, and we also wanted to mount solar panels on top of the hard shell, which is why we went with that decision. And I'm sure there are plenty of videos out there that outline how you can choose your tent or help you, pick out the right tent. So that would be your first step in this process, to pick your tent. Okay, so you've selected your tent and now it's time to go on Alibaba. Most likely when you're scrolling through Alibaba, you will see a lot of sellers that have the tent that you want. Now, some of these sellers are manufacturers and some of them are middlemen posing as manufacturers. We want to try to get in touch with the manufacturer directly. The reason for this is not that there's anything wrong with going with the middleman. The line of communication is better when it is with the manufacturer, and sometimes you may also get better prices with them. Now, how do you identify this manufacturer? One of the ways you can go about that is by seeing how long they have been on the platform. Some sellers have been there for 8 years, 12 years, 14 years. So they've been on the platform for a long time. And what you'll also see is that their account has been verified by Alibaba. And what that means is that Alibaba has ensured that the address that they have provided on the account does physically exist and their warehouse has been inspected. Another thing that you can look at is the amount in transactions that they have done. You'll see that it says 250,000 or $500,000 US in transaction. So that they've been doing business for a while and they're going to be a seasoned manufacturer. And you can also look for trade assurance, make sure the supplier has trade assurance. Now, trade assurance is a service offered by Alibaba that is designed to help create trust between buyers and suppliers. So they cover refunds, replacements, disputes and such. And in fact, you can actually filter out these sellers under category supplier types. You can actually check trade assurance and verified sellers. Now it's time to initiate conversations with about 4 or 5 of these sellers and get a quote. These are some of the messages we sent out. At this time, you can ask them any questions or concerns you may have. You can negotiate prices, get additional pictures of your tent, and weed out any unresponsive sellers. Now, once you've selected your seller, it's time to pay the guy. A quick tip before we move on to payment: make sure all your conversation remains within the Alibaba app or within your account. Do not have any conversation outside the app, like on WhatsApp or through email, because Alibaba recommends that they are more effective in resolving disputes when the conversations are within the app. Now, there are several methods of payment. The safest for both you and the seller being through Alipay. Most often you're dealing with a seasoned seller, so they'll just set this up for you. So what happens is the seller will send you a link through email, and you can click on that link, and it's going to take you to the payment platform where you will make the payment. Now, the payment you're going to be making will be the price of the tent plus shipping, and that is it. And that is all you will be paying the seller. At this point, you're done ordering your tent, but there are still some costs and processes involved. Once you've made your payment, which is the price of your tent plus shipping, the seller then ships the tent. Now, the price of shipping really depends on where you live. Now, if you live somewhere on the west coast of Canada or US, the shipping is relatively cheaper. It should be anywhere between 100 to 150, maybe 200 max. But if you're living in more of central US or on the east coast of US and Canada, the shipping price is a little bit more. Living in Nova Scotia, which is all the way on the east coast of Canada, we paid about $250 US. So that's the price of the shipping. Now let's talk about how the tent travels. We can also talk about the costs involved as the tent travels through the country until it reaches your destination. Now, the tent is shipped from China and it arrives in your country at the port of landing, as they call it. Once it arrives at this port of landing, your package is then handed over to an agency. It's a third party that takes your package off the container and then stores it or ships it to your next destination. Now, this agency is responsible for your package until it reaches your destination or your house. They may perform a number of tasks during this process. They may store it at their warehouse. They may take the package and then ship it to its next destination. For example, in our case, they took the package and put it on a train all the way to Quebec, Montreal, and from Montreal, they put the package on a transit van sort of thing, and then it was sent over to Halifax in Nova Scotia. And in Halifax, they did not have a warehouse of their own, so what they did is they had a third party, so they handed over the package to that third party, and they stored it for us until we could go pick it up at Halifax. So that is what the agency does. Now, if you're a business and you import all these products, you already know about all these processes and you probably already have an agency that does this for you. But if you're an individual, don't worry. The seller usually has an agency that they prefer, so they'll hook you up. Most often, this agency is based out of US or Canada, so the communication is much simpler once the product arrives in your country. Now, this agency that I mentioned will charge you for some of the following. It could be documentation fee, terminal handling fee, and inspection charges, inspection by the border agency, the Canadian border agency. These are some of the additional costs that will be involved. In our case, we paid around $250 for all of these charges to this agency. The shipping process itself is a little confusing and a little complicated to explain because there are so many variations to how your product can be handled and shipped. The best way I can explain this is by explaining how we went about it. So the product can actually be shipped directly to your doorstep. In our case, we decided not to go with that because it turned out to be more expensive for us to have it shipped directly to our doorstep because of where we live. So just to be clear, the $250 that we paid to the seller for shipping along with the price of the tent involves the tent being shipped all the way to Halifax. So from China to Halifax was $250 in shipping. Now, the additional $250 that we paid to the agency has nothing to do with the shipping at all. It's just the additional cost charged by the agency for all the costs that I mentioned before. Now, there is one last cost and process involved before your tent can be yours, and that is customs duty and tax. The customs duty is the fee that you pay on the particular product you're importing. In our case, it was a recreational fabric tent. It has its own HS code. It was 18%. So now we pay this 18% to the Canadian government. Now for the tax involved, this tax is based on your province. In our case, it was 15%, which was paid to our province. Customs duty and sales tax, altogether, I believe this is where we took the biggest hit on our purchase. We paid around $280 to $90 for the customs duty and sales tax. The agency can take care of all of this customs duty and taxes for you, but they will charge you an additional fee to get that done. So you don't have to personally go to the customs office and do this. But in our case, we chose to do it ourselves because it's just a matter of going to the border agency with the documentation. So it's really just a matter of showing up there with your documentation and paying the fee. Since we were going to Halifax to pick up our tent, we decided to go to the Canadian border agency ourselves and get this taken care of. So we're in the final stretch now, and here's how the process went for us. China to Prince Rupert, ship. Prince Rupert to Montreal, Quebec, train. Montreal to Halifax, truck. At Halifax, the package was stored at a warehouse of the agency's choosing. When we arrived at the warehouse, we were given a bill of landing or a manifest. We took this manifest. We took a copy of the invoice, a copy of the packing list. So the packing list is essentially a list that the seller provides with all the items that are packed in the package with their dimensions, weight, etc. We took all of these documents and went to the Canadian Border Agency. We submitted all these documents to them. They charged us the $280, $290 for the customs duty and taxes. We paid that amount, and then the Canadian Border Agency then gave us a paper, almost like a bill, letting us know that we have paid this amount. We picked the receipt from the CBSA office, went back to the warehouse, gave them the receipt. The warehouse then charged us a $50 fee for storing our tent because they had to store it for 48 hours because that's when we could get to pick up the tent. They have a little storage fee if they store for a certain amount of time. So we paid them the additional $50 for storage. And then finally we got our tent. And then we picked up our tent and we came home. If you choose to avoid all of this and you want to just have the agency take care of all of this for you and you want to have the tent delivered to your doorstep, you can most definitely get that done. They will take care of all of this for you for a fee. Okay, so now for the grand total of how much we paid for the tent. So there was the price of the tent, the shipping, the agency fees, the customs duty and tax, and the storage fees. So the grand total for us came up to 1,800 Canadian dollars. Now for the big question, is it worth it? Would we do it again? And the answer is yes, absolutely, we would definitely do it again. Because as far as we've seen, any hard shell rooftop tent that looked like this would have costed us upwards of $3,000. I believe the cheapest one would have been $2,800, and with taxes included, it would at least be $3,000 for us if we chose to buy it here. And since we were on a tight budget, we felt like this would be perfect. And another reason being, any tent that again looked like this and any hard shell tent that was sold here in Canada were in fact generic looking tents that were imported from China. We just decided to skip all of that and just go directly to the manufacturer. And if we were looking to buy a product that was designed and made in Canada or the US, that would have costed us a lot of money. We could have probably bought another TJ for that money. So we just decided that this was the best route for us. We are all for supporting local products and local businesses, but now that overlanding has become a luxurious industry, we could not bring ourselves to spend that much money on a rooftop tent. If after sales support and warranty is something that's really important to you, I don't think buying the rooftop tent from Alibaba would be the right fit for you. They do say that they have 2-year manufacturer warranty, and they do have a 30-day a return or replacement if the product was not as described, or if there was like some manufacturing defect on the product. But let's face it, shipping this tent back all the way to China would be a huge process again, and we haven't really dealt with that yet, so we don't really know how that would work out. They would definitely send any missing products or any spare parts if you need. That's not an issue. They would send it to you. If to just to round up, if after sales support and warranty is a deal breaker for you, then I don't think Alibaba would be the right fit. When it comes to the quality, I wouldn't say the quality is the best. It's definitely good for the price that we paid, and especially this tent is the first rooftop tent that we've owned, so it's really like we were just experimenting at this point, and it's really a transition phase for us. So I think for the price we paid, this tent is perfect for us. It fits our needs perfectly, and if something goes wrong, we can always, you know, maybe fix it ourselves, do like a little DIY. So it wasn't really a huge deal breaker for us, and that's kind of all the information we have for you right now at this time about ordering a rooftop tent from Alibaba. Definitely leave any questions you have in the comment section below. If we've missed anything out, you can always leave your questions below and we'll answer them for you. But that's about it. Like this video if you like this video, subscribe to our channel. Thanks, bye. I'm Aldo and...
You're Aldo? Who am I? I'm Spider-Man?
I'm Aldo and that's Spider-Man.